Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Ietsie Klein channel. I'm your host, Hatreda. So, I have taken a 3-week hiatus. The reason was because I had a bit of an abscess in my ear. I had to have surgery to get it drained. And if there's anybody with morbid fascination that would like to see Gro's photos, please slide into my DMs because I really liked seeing how it progressed. But it was not fun. It was quite painful. Halfway through what I expected to be the healing journey, I learned that there was a very rare type of bacteria involved and that the antibiotics I was on wasn't doing anything for me, which was why I kept having the impulse of wanting to cut my ear off because of the pain. But yeah, so then I got switched onto the right antibiotics and switched onto painkillers that, I'll be honest, is not painkillers, very much drugs. And yeah, we are here now. We are alive. The only problems I still have at the moment is that my neck is quite sore because of I can't properly sleep on this side. And I usually swap like a fish during the night or spin like a top, depending on the night. So now because I'm not sleeping how I'm normally sleeping, my neck is quite sore because I'm constantly sleeping in only one way, not moving as much as I should. So yeah, but we are taking medicine and we are hoping to get better soon. So during this 3 weeks, most of what I've done have been knitting. Well, a little bit of knitting, not a lot. So I'm working on the Vertices Unite with the Made by Jillian's group that she's running. And this is my part A. I'm using a Black Cat sock set yarn for the colored portions. And then the lighter portions is a handspun that I made myself. I use some Rolex that Jillian very interestingly gifted to me from Silky Milky Moon. And then I mix that, if I remember correctly, together with the gray. I'm not sure from where. But yeah, so it's really cool to be able to use a fiber that I got from Jillian in a group that Jillian is running. I'm enjoying it. I'm really enjoying the texture differences between the rows, where the Black Cat yarn is a little bit more uniform because it's small spun, right? And the handspun yarn have all these little bumpies and ridges and businesses going on. So that's super fun. I did run out of the handspun around here somewhere. So going on, I'm using another handspun, but not by me, alpaca. So it is a light brown and a white that's twisted together. So I'm really happy that the color difference is not so stark and that the texture also continues to be interesting with the contrast between the mill-spun Black Cat and the hand-spun alpaca. So yeah, that's super fun. I loved it. Other than that, what I have been working on as well, very slowly, is my quilts. So as soon as I decided that I would be able to be in a car for an hour, I begged AJ to drive me to De Volles, and I went to go and buy the quilting kit from them. I can't remember the designer of the pattern, but you get the pattern together with the fabric that you need to make the top. So you don't get the batting or the applique paper or the stabilizer or the backing material. You just get the cotton fabric for the top, which is a fair bit. It's a fair bit of money. And it's also a fair bit of difficulty to put it together. So after I bought it and I unpacked it and I saw how beautifully it's been put together and curated to have this particular look, I realized that I bought gold. Because quite honestly, it's beyond gorgeous. It is beyond amazing. So I'll put up a picture here of the only photo that I took of the finished quilt. Can't tell you why I didn't take more photos, but we are here. So this is what the quilt will look like when I'm done. the pattern is very, very well written. It tells you block by block exactly what you need to do, and how you need to go about putting it together. So now, since I had two problems when I started to want to do the quilt. Number one was the pattern is written in imperial, and I only have metric rulers. And problem number two is that I couldn't sit upright for too long, but I had this desperate need to start doing it. So I made the decision to do the small piecing parts using English paper piecing, and then translating the inches to centimeters so that I can use what I have on hand, because I wasn't able to go and buy something else yet. So that then resulted in the first quarter of the center block. So these squares, the paper pieces, is 5 centimeters. So they were supposed to be 2 inches at the end of it. So 2 inches translates to 5.08 centimeters, which is difficult to measure if you just have metric rulers. You don't have 5.08 markings consistently. So I decided to go with 5 centimeters around. And then in my sick-induced fugue state, my brain was like, well, these blocks are all 5 centimeters wide. So clearly this edge should be 25 centimeters. So what I could do is have a look at the final quilt, count how many 5 centimeter blocks there are around all of the other blocks that I need to make that has a pleating on it, and then just translate that to half centimeters as well, because we only have a centimeter ruler. That makes life easier. Where was I wrong? So I started making my blocks. I'm going to show you guys the first one that I made. So it's been pleated already. Here it is. Isn't that gorgeous? So I made this block, and then I made the second block. So the second block has roses on it. It looks like this. And when I made the second block, I realized, hey, hang on, between these two blocks, I have the 2 blocks necessary for the top half of the first quarter of the top. So I could potentially, since I'm bedbound, sit and piece the squares around. Exciting. However, I then cut 5 centimeter blocks with the paper pieces, and I started piecing them together. And around this point, I realized that these blocks are longer than what I worked out the centimeter side should be. So I pulled out my handy dandy ruler and I measured how long this piece should be, expecting it to be 25 centimeters. However, it was 25.5. So I have a whole extra half a centimeter in this length, right? So now I started wondering why. How did that happen? And it clicked in my brain. Should have clicked before, but here we are. Fabric has width. So if you have fabric and it folds around a piece of paper, and you have another piece of fabric that folds around a piece of paper, and you put these two together and you whip stitch them and then open them up, the distance from here to there will include extra width in between the blocks, which I didn't account for. However, that extra width works out to about a millimeter a block, give or take, which is great because 2 inches is 5.08 millimeters. So if this works out to just about 5.1 millimeters, we're almost there. We're like this far. So I have made the executive decision to continue with the blocks that I have made this far. I have stolen a little bit of fabric here from the seam allowance I did for the centimeter measurements, and it works out just. So you can see there's a very small seam allowance there, and then I fudged it for the width ones because that was only 3 millimeters that I needed to like send angle. So I'm hoping that with a good pressing it will look okay. And then I'm going to continue making the rest of the inset blocks with the inches measurements and work with 5 centimeter blocks for all of the small pieces and continue with my English paper piecing adventure, which worked out, funny enough, in my favor. So I have since ordered a inches ruler so that I can actually do the squares correctly. Before I ordered the inches ruler, I did make this block, which is a rose block. So with the centimeter measurement, you can see that the seam allowance is very, very little. So I think I'm going to set these blocks in with the tiny, tiny seam allowance. And hopefully with the quilting that's necessary before I can actually wash it, they will hold up in the wash. If they don't, I will do some visible mending magic, because ultimately this is my first quilt top that's like proper from a pattern vibes, not just like me messing around with shapes and having ideas. So yeah, it is the first one that I'm ever doing, and it's a learning curve, and we are living with it. We are going with the flow. But yeah, I want to circle back to the comment that I made about having bought gold with this quilt top. And I think it's something that not a lot of people think about in terms of how privileged that we have in South Africa. So when you look at quilting fabric, it can be expensive because it's imported usually. It's coming from America or from Europe, where the cost of living is higher. So the products that gets created is more expensive. So when you're talking about like 250 to 300 rand a meter, that sounds like a lot of money. And objectively, it is. However, it's a very specialized fabric. It's a very specialized technique to get the look of it, to be able to mix and match different types of fabrics, to have color cohesion between the different fabrics. And then on top of that, this particular Love and Rose, a Hearts and Roses pattern that was designed by this lady that you can actually go and have classes from her at Stinaran if you wanted to, which I think is such a privilege. And this pattern, I haven't seen something like that on the internet anywhere. Like every pattern that you can buy for quilting is mostly shapes that you have to piece together. And they give you like guidance in terms of your colors that you can choose, but it's just shapes. It's not a pleating. It's not step-by-step instructions of this is your block, this is how you're going to be piecing it, this is the next thing that you need to do. It's just accepted that you need to know how you piece your blocks together, that your seam allowance should be this much, and. And it got me thinking a little bit in terms of the access we have to handmade goods in general in South Africa, because a lot of my project bags are handmade. A lot of the yarn that I use is indie dyed by hands. A lot of the things that I use day to day to make my hobby life more enjoyable and easy to do is handmade by people, including a clapper that I never thought this thing would be so useful as what it was. Or continues to be. Hang on, let me quickly go fetch it. I'll be right back. I'm back. Okay, this is the clapper. So it's a piece of wood that is shaped and sanded and made into a particular shape. So what it's meant for is when you sew things and you press the seams over, then you use this to press onto your open seams so that the seams, all of the steam evaporates into the wood, and with the weight of it, the seams stay crisper than what it would if you just iron and left it, right? This particular shape is also extremely useful for me. So you can use it this way around or this way around. It doesn't discriminate. But I started using this for everything. Now, this particular one has been handmade by Amanda from Vollenfloss's husband. You can feel it, like it's handmade. The edges are so smooth. There is things that like doesn't line up 320%, but it doesn't matter because it's still functional. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. But I use this for so many things that I never thought I would. Like to put this on top of pieces when I need to trace something, to hold it as a weight to keep the rolls open, because the applique paper is like 1 meter and 1.2 meters wide, and then to try and keep that open while you're making these tiny little rose petals with your pen, it's annoying. Not with this though. I even use this to take videos because it's got this really nice elongated tip, but the weight sits at the back, so I can prop this onto a box and then put my phone on top of this tip so I can be able to take down a top-down video of how I'm working, which is how I filmed the reel that I posted yesterday. Well, today is Sunday. You're going to be seeing this Wednesday. So a few days ago for you, it's how I filmed this because I was using this. And it gives me so much respect for having access to these beautiful handmade things at a reasonable price. I do understand for some people reasonable is also objective or subjective, because not everybody have the same amount of funds, but it is still, in comparison to what you would pay for this in other countries, accessible. In other countries, there's certain things that you just can't buy because it's too expensive, too labor intensive, too unique. And I really enjoy the fact that we have access to these types of products in South Africa, that we can have this in our lives and we can be surrounded by beautiful handmade things. Over and beyond that, that we can know the maker, that we can have their number and message them and tell them, hey, this is so cool. So I did message Amanda about this earlier this week saying, hey, this is so cool. So she didn't even think of all the uses I'm using this damn thing for. But yeah, I'm really having such an appreciation for all of the things that we have access to and all of the things that I can have in my life, and that I can make these beautiful things with the support of a beautiful community. So yeah, before I get too teary-eyed, I'm sure that it is my illness throwing me a bit off of weight. But yeah, that's my video for this week. Thank you so much for coming with and for listening to me. And thank you for everyone who followed up with me and sent me messages of support. And for everyone who would see me in person on Saturday and be like, hey, when's the next video? It's here. I really appreciate all of the enthusiasm and the support and the involvement. And you guys just make my heart so warm. I am so, so grateful for each and every person in my life. Cool. Thank you so much. I'll see you next week. Promise. Bye.